Good morning. I wanted to make a quick video, talk to you for a second. I am on my way to the airport to pick my husband up. It's a great day. Yay! So, the last video that I had done, I left you guys at that we bought our current home, and it had a house on it, and that's kind of where I left it off at. So we had a home on the land that we bought. It was a VA repo. It was 10 acres with a house that was a VA repo. And the land that we bought, the home that we bought, had originally belonged to my grandparents. They had lived there when I was a little girl. They sold it and moved, and I don't know who bought it after they sold it. But it had come up for auction, and our realtor had told us about it, and I told her, I was like, yes, I want that. And she was like, well, you need to look at it, you don't even know what it is, blah 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, I do, that was my grandma and grandpa's place, I want that. So we ended up with that piece of property, and it was just miraculous. It was miraculous. I believe in the miraculous, and it was miraculous. And anyway, the house was livable with a lot of cleaning, but it needed a lot of updating, a lot of work done on it. And so we had started doing that. We had taken the carpet. We cleaned the carpet when we moved in, but then we ended up taking the carpet out because it needed it. It was the same carpet my grandma and grandpa had in there, and it needed taken out. So we took the carpet out. We took the linoleum floors out. A lot of you will remember linoleum. I think that's how you say it. We scraped all those out, and we put new linoleum down, but that's not where we wanted to end up final. But that's what needed to happen right then, because that was our budget. Well, fast forward, and we ended up doing a lot of work. We put new siding on it. We built a front porch on the house, and then we put new floors in. Fast forward. So my daughter decided that I had painted her room right after we moved in, and she was only like 2 or 3 when we moved in. Well, at this time she was 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there, and she decided that she wanted to have her room updated. You know, she was older and she was tired of the baby look, and she wanted her room updated. So I went in, and her walls were wallpaper, and I was going to paint that over that. And anyway, that's what I did. I started painting over the wallpaper, and I go in the next day. I'm painting out in it, and I go in the next morning because I had left it to dry, and it's literally falling off the walls in sheets. So if you want to know how to get wallpaper off the wall, maybe try painting it, and it will just come right off, because this didn't want it to, but it did. It just started falling off in sheets, and so it was pulling the paper part of the drywall off as it was coming, and we had to end up taking all the drywall off of her walls because the diameter or the thickness of that drywall was different than what the thickness of drywall is today. And that's what we had to end up doing, is taking all the drywall off of her walls. That was kind of more than what we had initially thought we were getting into. Well, then we noticed that, okay, so we have all the drywalls off. We need to re-insulate the walls while we're here. We're going to have to do that, and so that's what we were doing. In the meantime, I had bought a book, and it was called Hand Me Another Brick, Please. The book was a in-depth study of the book of Nehemiah in the Bible and how to be a leader. And I was one day I was outside, I was on the front porch, and I was reading that book, and in that book it had the names of God, and it explained like the name and then the meaning of that name. And one of the names that just leapt off the page at me that day was Jehovah Jireh, God provider. That just popped, like literally I felt it almost like it come down through my head all the way down into my spirit. That is who God is. He is our provider. That just, every cell of my body just clung to that. And it goes back to Genesis, where Abraham is taking Isaac up the mountain, and Isaac's like, okay, we have the fire, we have the wood, but where's the sacrifice? And Abraham looks at Isaac and he said, God will provide. God will provide a sacrifice. And that God is, that's who he is. He can't change. He's our provider. In every area of our life, he provides for us, whether we acknowledge it or we don't acknowledge it. He is provider, and it's to our best interest to recognize him as our provider. We can't get a better provider than what he is. That is who he is. He can't change his name, and he will not lie. And if he said, I am a provider, then he will be our provider. That just really got into me. And so I was reading that, and it was like, bam, God is our provider. So that night, Jeff comes home from work, we eat dinner, whatever, we're sitting around the living room, and I'm telling him about this. I'm like, God is Jehovah Jireh, provider. That's who he is. He can't not be that. Well, so we go, my brother's getting married in California. Me and the kids go to his wedding. Jeff's unable to go because the company he works for, they bid their vacations like at the very beginning of the year. This was in September, and he wasn't able to get that vacation time during that. So my kids and I, we go out to my brother's wedding, and we put working on Caitlin's room on hold because of that. So we come home, and there went a coyote across the road behind me. That's pretty cool. Anyway, we come home, and Caitlin is staying in a smaller extra room that we had there, and in October we go to church one Wednesday night, and our pastor preaches a sermon on guardian angels. Well, that day I had been to pick up a prescription at a little pharmacy that had like knickknacks and gifts and that kind of thing in it. And as I was looking around waiting for the prescription to be filled, it just come to me, it was like, all this stuff is just going to be burned up one day. Like, all these beautiful things have zero meaning. There is no meaning to any of this stuff. It's just stuff, and it means nothing. And I didn't realize it, but God was preparing me and preparing my heart through this whole thing with, I am your provider, and then with the realization that all that beautiful stuff actually has zero meaning whatsoever. It was just stuff, and it, in the scheme of things, it wasn't gonna, it meant nothing. So anyway, our pastor preaches a message on guardian angels, and he had been in the ministry for over 50 years. He was an older gentleman, and he said that in all his time of pastoring, preaching, he had never preached a sermon on guardian angels, ever. And anyway, so Jeff